So many people ask, how did God create the world in 6 days? When you read the Bible again and again, you may still find that it's very hard to understand the whole process what God did in those 6 days. Furthermore, you may ask lots of questions after you have got through the whole Bible. Some may have been answered by scholars in the past hundreds of years, and some are still obscure to us. In this video series, we are trying our best to make some of the concepts clear for those who want to learn what the Bible really says. Now let's look at the first verse in Genesis in the Old Testament. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This is a common translation in most of the modern English versions, such as the New International Version NIV, English Standard Version ESV, Christian Standard Bible CSB, or Holman Christian Standard Bible HCSB. Pay attention to the translate of heavens, which appears as a plural noun in these versions. However, there are still some of the modern translations, as well as classical versions such as King James Version, use different kind of translations. For example, King James Version KJV is read as, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth." It uses the heaven in its singular form. In Catholic Public Domain Version CPTV, it's "In the beginning, God created heaven and earth." It removed the definite article "the" from the version compared to King James Version KJV. While in the Holy Bible, easy-to-read version ERV, it translated as, "In the beginning, when God created the earth and the sky." Here uses sky instead of heaven. And in Good News Translation US version GNTD, it uses the universe instead of the heavens and the earth. That is, in the beginning, when God created the universe. To have better understanding of this verse, let's dive into the original version, which is in Hebrew. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. There are 7 words here. The first word, Bereshit, is translated as "in the beginning." Reshit means beginning, and the letter bet is a preposition here as in English. Yet what was the state of the world at the beginning of God's creation in the script? As there is no context right now, we'll leave it to address later. Bara means create from nothing, which is a word of action qualified to use with God only, for no one can do it apart from God. It's in the form of perfect tense of a third-person singular. Elohim means God in plural form. Please pay special attention here, as we are going to have further explanation for this. Et is a direct object marker that introduces direct object. Hashamayim consisted of shamayim, which means heaven, heavens, or sky in the translated verse, and the letter he here as the definite article the. Ve'et, in which it is the same as the previous one, and the letter vav is a conjunction which can be translated as and. Haaretz, he is a definite article as the previous one, and aretz can be translated into earth, land, etc. Our introduction may be too simple to most of us, for this is not a language learning program. You don't have to understand more about the Hebrew. You can just listen to the analysis. However, understanding Hebrew will be an asset for anybody who wants to analyze profoundly in Bible study. At the first glance of the analysis above, you may find the grammatical mismatch between the subject and the predicate. Bara is a verb in the form of third-person singular, while Elohim is a plural noun. Yet this is a key point. The third-person singular refers to the one God. We shall learn that in Hebrew, noun has 3 forms in number: singular, dual, and plural, which is different from that of English. singular for one, dual for two, and plural for three and above. As the result, in this case, you may find it easy to understand the word Trinity, that is, three in one. The second point which is worth to be emphasized here is the word shamayim. It can mean heavens, heaven, or sky. It's a word in dual form, and there's no singular or plural form for it. You may ask why this should happen, and the following analysis will tell you the beauty of the Hebrew language. As one of the ancient languages, Hebrew has majority of its vocabulary originated of its own, not derived from any other languages. We may split the word shamayim as letter shin and a word mayim, in which mayim is water in dual form, and there is no singular or plural form for it. To further explain why it could be so, let's go to verse 6 to 8 in this chapter, which describes what God did on the second day. And God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the vault and separated water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky, and there was evening and there was morning the second day. From these verses, you can have a clear image that God created the sky was aimed to divide the water into two parts. Up in the sky, which is cloud as we know, and under the sky, which is above the surface of the earth. And that's the ocean or of the earth at that time. In this case, the word water in Hebrew is invented as a form of dual noun, mayim, and the letter shin is added before it to form shamayim, which is used to divide the dual mayim. And this is how the water and the sky in Hebrew appear as dual nouns in form. Now we know how the word shamayim came from, and that does not mean shamayim has two parts. It's just a word in abstract form. Whereas in English, there are different meanings for the plural waters as what we can see in the Webster Dictionary. It can mean a particular quantity or body of water, such as the water occupying or flowing in a particular bed. Or it can mean a band of seawater abutting on the land of a particular sovereignty and under the control of that sovereignty. Or it can mean the sea of a particular part of the earth. From these definitions, we can infer that none of them will match the meaning of dual noun mayim in Hebrew, or are concerning with water above the surface of the earth and nothing to do with the water up in the sky. Is this interesting that God had put these words in Hebrews' mind even before they have their own systematic language? The meaning of shamayim can be extended from sky to heaven. Now let's come back to the verse 1. Which word shall we use for the translation here? Heaven, heavens, or sky? First of all, what's the difference between heaven and heavens? One may say that heaven is the place where God resides, whereas the plural heavens refer to various levels of this divine realm. According to this explanation, if you choose the singular heaven here, that means God had nowhere to stay before the beginning. The good news is this, that the Webster Dictionary does not say like that. As for sky, it usually describes the upper atmosphere or expanse of space that constitutes an apparent great vault or arc over the earth. And it can also mean the dwelling place of the deity and the blessed dead according to Webster Dictionary. In this dictionary, you may also find that heaven has some similar meanings that we mentioned of the word sky. Yet, there's an extra explanation for heaven, and it's a place or condition of utmost happiness, something that's very pleasant or enjoyable. And it's a spiritual state of everlasting communion with God. It looks like that the plural heavens may be closer to the meaning in the original text. However, with the analysis of the Hebrew word shamayim, we may assume the translations that use the plural word heavens are not connotatively, but only a kind of grammatically match to the original Hebrew text. And in this case, it's easy to get confused with the concept about heaven in some polytheism religions. You may think the sky seems to be appropriately to be used here too, according to Webster Dictionary. At least it can be accurately used in what God created on the second day. Yet, there are some de facto differences between heavens and the sky. What shall we do here? As for these reasons, and for the exact meaning of the beginning, we still need some more contexts. We may leave them to resolve later until we have got through the God's creation of each day. From what we have explained above, we can find that no two languages can be translated to each other without any losses. In that case, the original text will be very important to help us understand the real connotation.